Your brain is lying to you right now. It's editing your vision dozens of times per second, hiding your real voice from you, and running a simulation it occasionally forgets to keep seamless. You have never once experienced raw, unfiltered reality. Not even close. And the strangest part? The moments when you actually notice the machinery behind the curtain feel so specifically wrong that most people assume something is broken. Nothing is broken. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. It's just that nobody warned you how weird that looks from the inside. These are 8 completely ordinary experiences that feel absolutely, inexplicably wrong, counted down from mildly unsettling to genuinely existential. Number 8. When words stop being words. You're filling out a form, something routine, and you write your name at the top. Then you look at it. Really look at it, and suddenly your own name looks completely made up, like someone handed you a random pile of letters and told you this was a real word that meant a real person. You stare harder, trying to force it back into meaning. It doesn't cooperate. The word just sits there on the page, slightly hostile, like a familiar face spotted from a totally wrong angle. This happens because your brain doesn't process words the way a dictionary does. It fires up an entire network of meaning the instant it sees a familiar word. What it looks like, what it's for, the whole concept, all in a fraction of a second. But when you stare at that same word for 10 or 15 seconds without moving on, the neurons responsible for processing that meaning fire so many times in rapid succession that they start to fatigue. Like a muscle held in one position too long, the signal weakens. The meaning drains out, and what's left is just a shape on a page that your brain suddenly has no idea what to do with. And the harder you try to fix it, the worse it gets. Saying the word out loud, tracing the letters with your finger, reminding yourself what it means. Every attempt to force the meaning back keeps those same exhausted neurons firing on the exact problem they're too tired to solve. You're essentially shaking a dead flashlight harder and wondering why the light isn't coming back. The more familiar the word, the more vulnerable it is. Your brain has processed common words so many thousands of times that the shortcut is basically automatic. More unusual words actually require real thought, which keeps the neurons fresh. The words you've known your whole life are the ones most likely to suddenly look like a typo. There you are, staring at the word spoon like it personally insulted you, genuinely unable to confirm that anyone has ever spelled this correctly. But losing track of a word on a page is one thing. What happens when your brain loses track of something it's supposed to be doing automatically, hundreds of times a day, without you ever noticing? Number 7. The swallow that hijacked your entire afternoon. You're sitting somewhere quiet, a library, a waiting room, the kind of stillness where you can almost hear the lights buzzing. And then it happens. You become aware that you just swallowed. Really aware of it. And now you cannot stop being aware of it. Each swallow feels enormous and weirdly deliberate, like you're performing it for a small, judgmental audience instead of just doing it the way you've done it 500 times today without thinking about it once. Your body handles swallowing the same way it handles breathing and blinking, quietly, in the background, without ever bothering your conscious mind with the details. There's a whole neurological system running this on autopilot while your conscious brain worries about whether that email came across weird. The two systems are supposed to stay in their own lanes. The autopilot runs the plane. The pilot reads the magazine. Everyone's happy. But sometimes attention slips into the wrong lane. Your conscious brain catches a glimpse of something that was supposed to stay automatic and immediately flags it as worth monitoring. And once your conscious brain decides something is important, it is not letting go. It's like a manager who covered someone's shift for 5 minutes and now insists on personally approving every decision in the department. The autopilot didn't need help. Everything was fine. But now there's management involved, and management is making everything worse. The same threat detection wiring that helped your ancestors notice a predator moving through tall grass is now making you intensely aware of your own saliva management in a quiet waiting room. Evolution built an incredibly sensitive alarm system. It just never anticipated that you'd be sitting perfectly still in a chair with nothing to be alarmed about, giving your brain enough spare bandwidth to notice its own plumbing. The awareness always fades eventually. You get distracted, the autopilot takes back over. And within a few minutes, you're swallowing hundreds of times a day without a single thought about it, until someone brings it up. Like right now. You just swallowed, didn't you? And the moment you try to go back to doing it automatically, you realize there's no button for that. You just have to wait, mildly betrayed by your own nervous system, until your brain quietly finds something else to fixate on. Now imagine that same glitch happening, not with something invisible like swallowing, but with your own eyes, doing something you've never once been allowed to see. Number 6, your eyes doing something without permission. You're reading a book, a menu, the back of a cereal box, and you realize your eyes just jumped back to the same line twice. Not because it was interesting, not because you missed something. Your eyes simply decided to reread a sentence your brain had already processed without consulting you at all. Your eyes are never actually still. Even when you think you're staring at a single point, they're making dozens of tiny jerking movements every second, constantly repositioning to feed your brain fresh visual information. If you somehow froze your eyes in one exact position, your vision would start to fade and go gray within seconds. The movement isn't a bug. It's the entire operating system. But here's the part that should genuinely bother you. Your brain suppresses your vision during every single one of those jumps. Every time your eyes dart from one point to another, your brain cuts the feed for that fraction of a second so you don't experience the blur of motion. You have been going temporarily blind dozens of times per second your entire life. Your brain fills each gap with whatever was there before, seamlessly, without asking permission. You have never once noticed. This is why clocks do that strange thing. You glance at a clock with a ticking second hand, and the first tick always seems to last slightly too long, like the hand froze for a moment before resuming its normal rhythm. It didn't freeze. Your brain suppressed your vision during the eye movement to look at the clock, then backfilled that missing time with the first thing it saw when your eyes landed, which was the second hand in its current position. So your brain stretched that first tick backward to cover the gap. The clock was always ticking normally. Your brain just edited the footage. About 70% of people, when they learn this, immediately try to catch their own eyes moving in a mirror. It is completely impossible. Your brain suppresses vision during the jump, and by the time it resumes, your eyes have already landed. You can watch someone else's eyes move with no problem, but your own eyes will always appear perfectly still to you in a reflection. Your brain built you a seamlessly edited movie of the world, and it has never once shown you the raw footage. That's your brain hiding something from your eyes. But it gets stranger when your brain hides something from your own hands. Number 5, the stranger driving your hands. You're typing something you've typed 1,000 times. Your password, your email address. Your fingers handle it effortlessly, no thought required. Then you try to do it consciously. You try to think about each letter and which key it sits on, and your fingers immediately freeze. The sequence that your hands knew perfectly 1 second ago becomes completely inaccessible the moment you try to look directly at it. There's an old poem about a centipede moving gracefully with all 100 legs until someone asks which leg comes after which. It immediately collapses in a ditch, tangled, unable to move. The centipede was fine. The centipede is just thinking now, and thinking is the wrong tool for walking. Your brain stores different types of knowledge in completely separate systems. Facts live in one place. Names, dates, the plot of a movie you saw last year. But physical skills live somewhere else entirely. How to ride a bike, how to type, how to sign your name. These two systems were never designed to communicate with each other. When you try to drag something from your hands into your conscious thoughts, the translation fails. The file format doesn't exist. It's like trying to print a dream. The information is there, vivid and complete, but it cannot survive the conversion. About 90% of elite sports coaches teach their athletes to compete without thinking. to trust movements rehearsed until they belong to the body, not the mind. The moment an athlete consciously analyzes a motion they've practiced 10,000 times, the motion falls apart immediately. A free throw shooter who starts thinking about the mechanics of their release mid-shot is almost certainly going to miss. Your password didn't go anywhere. Your hands still know it completely. They just can't explain it to you. And the moment you stop demanding an explanation and just let your fingers move, the whole sequence comes back instantly, as if nothing happened. Your hands forgetting how to be your hands is uncomfortable enough, but it's nothing compared to looking in a mirror and forgetting how to be your face. Number 4. The moment your reflection became a stranger. You're standing in front of a bathroom mirror, doing nothing special, when your own face stops being your face. The person looking back feels slightly off, like a very good photograph of someone you used to know rather than your actual reflection in real time. Your brain doesn't store your face the way a camera would. It builds a loose, average composite from memory, constructed mostly from photos, from other people's reactions, from glimpses and partial impressions accumulated over years. The version of your face that exists inside your head is not really a face. It's a guess, a constantly updated approximation stitched together from secondhand information. When you stand in front of a mirror and really look, longer than a few seconds, without checking your teeth or fixing your hair, your brain runs its live visual input against that stored guess. And sometimes they don't match. The lighting is different from any photo you've seen. The angle feels slightly wrong. Your expression at rest looks unfamiliar because you've never really watched your own face without performing for a camera. The composite and the mirror disagree. And for just a moment you look at yourself the way you'd look at a stranger on a train, registering a face without recognizing a person. Researchers have actually tested this. They asked people to sit in a dimly lit room and stare at their own reflection for 10 minutes straight without looking away. Within the first 2 or 3 minutes, most participants reported that their face appeared to warp, shift, or transform into someone else's entirely. Some described seeing a parent's face. Others described something they couldn't identify at all. The face in the mirror hadn't changed. Their brain's ability to maintain a stable model of it just ran out of steam, and in the absence of a confident prediction, it started improvising. Nearly everyone has experienced the milder version of this. The fact that it feels so alarming is actually proof your sense of self is working correctly. Your brain knows you should recognize that face instantly. The wrongness you feel is the alarm doing its job. But if your own face can become a stranger, wait until you hear what your own voice has been doing behind your back for your entire life. Number 3, the voice that was never yours. You leave a voicemail, or someone plays back a recording from a meeting, and you immediately want to leave the room. The voice coming out of the speaker sounds nothing like you. Higher, thinner, somehow hollow in a way you can't name. Everyone else insists that's exactly what you sound like. They're right. You are the only person on earth who has never actually heard your real voice. When you speak, sound reaches your ears 2 different ways. Some travels the normal route, out your mouth, through the air, into your ear canal. But a significant portion also travels directly through your skull bones to your inner ear. Bone conduction is a completely different signal. It makes your voice sound deeper and richer to you than it actually is, because your skull resonates differently than open air. The voice you think you have and the voice everyone else has always heard have never once been the same thing. About 60% of people, hearing a recording of themselves for the first time, genuinely cannot identify it as their own voice. They assume there's been a technical mistake. There hasn't. That's just what you sound like. It has always been what you sound like, and it never gets less strange. People who listen to recordings of themselves regularly, podcasters, musicians, voice actors, they all report that the discomfort fades over time. But it never fully disappears. Some small part of their brain keeps quietly insisting that the recording is wrong, because the bone-conducted version is the only one it has ever trusted. Every conversation you've ever had, every impression you've ever made, every time someone fell in love with the sound of your voice, they were hearing the version you've never fully accepted as yours, a voice you don't recognize is unsettling, but your body has an even more dramatic way of reminding you that your brain is making guesses about reality every second of every day. Number 2, the staircase that wasn't there. You're walking down a familiar staircase, somewhere you've been hundreds of times, and you step off what you think is the last step. But there's one more. Your foot drops into empty air, your whole body lurches, and for one genuinely terrible fraction of a second, your nervous system fires every alarm it has at once. Try something right now. Think about the staircase you use most often. How many steps does it have? Most people have absolutely no idea. The number doesn't exist in their conscious memory despite having walked those stairs thousands of times. Your brain stored that staircase as a motor rhythm, a full-body sequence with a specific feel, not as counted information. It knows the stairs the way your hands know your password, completely, but not in any form it can explain. The lurch you feel is your nervous system's emergency response to the ground not being where your brain had already committed to it being. Falls are one of the genuinely dangerous things that can happen to a human body, and your threat detection does not take missing steps lightly. One unexpected drop, and the whole system responds like you just stepped off a cliff. Your heart rate spikes, your arms shoot out, your entire body braces for impact against a danger that turns out to be about 3 inches of unexpected air. The recovery takes maybe half a second. The adrenaline hangover lasts 10 minutes. Your body genuinely cannot tell the difference between a missed step and a genuine fall until it's already launched the full emergency protocol. The more familiar the staircase, the worse the lurch. Familiarity is really just your brain's way of saying it stopped checking. It filed that staircase under known and moved on. The shock when reality disagrees with a confident prediction is always proportional to how confident the prediction was. Familiarity isn't safety. It's just your brain choosing not to look anymore. Every item on this list has been your brain glitching on one specific thing: a word, a swallow, a reflection. But this last one is different. This is your brain glitching on everything, all at once. Number 1, the thought you just had about whether any of this is real. At some point recently, today, last week, sometime in the past month, you probably had a quiet moment where you couldn't quite convince yourself that any of this was actually happening. Not in a frightening way, not a panic, just a brief, passing strangeness where the room around you felt slightly like a stage set, and you felt like you were watching yourself from a small but definite distance. You were there, doing something completely normal, making coffee or sitting in traffic. And for maybe 5 seconds, the whole scene felt like it belonged to someone else. About 75% of people experience at least one episode of this in their lives. Most of them never mention it to anyone because it sounds like the kind of thing you're not supposed to say out loud. Everything you experience as reality, the room you're in, the sound of your own thoughts, the sensation of being a person located inside a body, is not a direct feed from the outside world. It is a model. Your brain is running a continuous, extraordinarily sophisticated simulation of reality assembled from sensory input, memory, expectation, and constant interpretation. Most of the time, the simulation is seamless, the maintenance is invisible, and you never notice the machinery underneath. But occasionally the simulation flickers, attention shifts, or you get tired, or some small mismatch occurs between what your brain predicted and what it actually received. And for just a moment, the machinery becomes visible. You don't experience the world directly. You experience the simulation experiencing the world. You catch yourself being conscious, which is genuinely one of the strangest things a brain complex enough to do that can possibly do to itself. This flicker is not a malfunction. It's a side effect of building a mind sophisticated enough to model its own modeling. Simpler brains never get this because they can't turn attention inward far enough to catch the process at work. The wrongness you feel is the cost of being self-aware at a reasonably high resolution. Your brain built something intricate enough to occasionally notice that it is, in fact, a brain. And the only reasonable response to noticing that is the specific, mild, irreducible strangeness you felt. followed almost immediately by your brain quietly papering over the gap and getting back to the business of pretending the simulation isn't there. You've been carrying that strangeness your whole life. So is everyone else. Nobody talks about it. If you made it to the end of this, you're not a casual viewer. Subscribe, because next week, I'm covering the 5 things your brain does while you sleep that would genuinely disturb you if you knew about them. That video will be on screen now.